put a little bit of sand over the top of it or something. G'day folks, I'm Wayne, welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're going to dig some bait. What we're going to dig today is worms, and they're called rockies. These worms, I've done a bit of research on these worms. I've talked to a gentleman by the name of Darryl McPhee. He's a professor down at the Bond University, and these worms I don't think are classified. And if you can tell me differently, let me know in the comments down below. But these particular worms that we dig here are a relative, I guess, of the crib island worm, but they're not a crib island worm. They're a much different worm. They're not a huge worm. They're much bigger than the wrigglers that we dig on Redcliffe, but they're excellent bait for whiting, bream, snap. Anything that swims in the waters around here will eat these worms, providing you put enough on the hook. Now for whiting, you'll only need the one worm. For a bream, 1 or 2 worms. For everything else, it's according to the type of fish you're catching. Going to dig a few today. We'll show you how we dig them, and we'll give you a look at the worms. That's a look to start with. So let's get on with it. Go and dig a few more worms and show you how we do it. So we're just using a standard fork today, just a 4-prong fork that you buy from any hardware shop. Don't have to spend a whole lot of money on a fork. So you can see behind us the way the structure is here. It's a gravelly bottom. We've got a sand up there. We've got the weed that's pushed up with the tide. The weed is pretty much here every day, less in the winter time. The worms are always here. What you look for is this edge where the sand meets the gravel, and you just dig so that you're actually still digging in the gravel. And it takes a little bit to get through that first little bit of a dig. Once you're through that first little bit, it does become quite easy. So work your way along the sand edge. You may not find them straight away. We were fortunate today, we did. Our first dig, we came up with worms, and there'll be worms all along this sand edge here. Now, on the Redcliffe Peninsula, this structure here is really common. So anytime you see it, anywhere you see it, you'll get these worms. So you can see here Jordan's pulling a nice worm out here, the mud. He's probably shouldn't be stretching it like that. Just dig a little bit around it, move that loose mud around it, and get the whole worm. When we put it in the bucket, it'll actually close itself up back down to just a couple of inches and really fatten itself up. And that's a really good bait there, like we said, for whiting or bream around these parts. They can go in the bucket. Yeah, it's a nice, there's a nice one. Turn that one on. You can see how the worms here, they're quite fat when you pick them up, but when they're stressed, they stretch themselves out and they thin themselves out. But that there is just the perfect bait for anything from bream to whiting, and even flathead eat these things around here. Now we've just turned this one over, and without touching it, I'll just show you what we're looking at. You can see here in the top of the mud, there's a worm wriggling there, there's a worm on top there, there's a worm over here. So we just go through the mud gently, find all the worms, pull them out one by one nice and carefully so we don't break them, and put them in the bucket. What we're looking for today, we're going to do a session on bream or whiting, or bream and whiting. So we're looking for about 25-30 worms, and we're almost there with only, what, 10 digs. There's another one there. Another one there. So just wash those worms off, Jordan, and we'll have a look at this. Is just one turnover, and we'll show you what we got out of just the one turnover. We'll wash these worms off. So just in the one turn, you can see here we've got about five, maybe 6 worms. All roughly the same size, probably about 2 inches long, nice and fat. Each one of them is a bait. You could probably use 2 on a hook, because obviously you're not paying for them. You're coming down here and you're paying with your time and your labour. But you go to the shop these days and worms are dearer than gold. At the end of the day, you bring the kids down and do this, they actually enjoy this as much as they do the fishing. Finding worms in the mud, there's nothing a kid will like better. Isn't that true, Jordan?
Oh, get it.
So just be nice and gentle, like Jordan is with the worms. They'll come out whole. When you don't break the worms, they live a lot longer. So you want to keep your worms for a few hours while you go fishing. What you need to do is find this nice thin grit and just scrape it off the top. You don't want too much sand in it. Doesn't matter if there's a little bit of sand in it, but what this does, it gives them shade, gives them moisture, and it gives them some nutrients just to sort of feel comfortable with for the next few hours while you're using them to go fishing. That there, just cover them, that's enough to keep them probably for the whole day. Flick a little bit of salt water in every now and then just to make sure the temperature stays nice and cool for them. Keep them in the shade. That's it, folks. That brings us to the end of this video. You can see we've got here, I'd call it a handful of worms, probably about, I don't know, 15 to 20 worms there. That's certainly enough for a couple of hours this morning that Jordan and I are going to do, chase some whiting and bream down on Margate Beach. The run-in tide's best for whiting. You'll catch bream run out, run in, bottom, top, bream are there all the time, but the whiting prefer a rising tide around here. So we'll fish the rising tide this morning, chase a few whiting with these worms. When they run out, if they run out, well then that's the end of our session. The next low tide we'll come back and get some more. We don't need to keep them here because I live on the peninsula. Best place to keep these fresh are right where they live. So that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got something out of it. Hit that like button if you did. If you haven't for me, subscribe, helps the channel, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.